and welcome back to the Thrive Tuesday training. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today, so I'll just wait for a moment to see who comes on to join me. I can understand if you don't, if you're in the UK. It is incredibly hot here today where I am. This is the peak of the heat wave in the UK today. It is unrealistically hot. I don't do very well in the heat, so I have to start fanning myself halfway through. Oh, let me just turn the alerts off. Have to start fanning myself halfway through, then that'll be why. Because me and the heat have never really got along. So, but yeah, I wanted to come on to talk about something a little bit different today, because I've been working a lot with the soul of my business, the Deva of my business lately. And a couple of people have asked me a little bit more about that. So this is really what I wanted to talk about, this whole concept of your business has a soul. Because I know this is quite, it's quite new to a lot of people. They may not have heard of it. And I have spoke about it in this group, but maybe not in the way that I should have done. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a synopsis of what really it all is, and even how I came to do this, because working with the souls of businesses is incredibly important to me. It's not just about making a business as in the systems and the structures and helping women create transformational offers and teaching them to launch and how to manage their email list and master their messaging. Underneath all that, there is something really deeply spiritual in creating a business, and this is what I wanted to talk about. So I suppose the question that came to me as I got into working with the spirits of businesses was being a woman, really, in a very masculine world. I have a vision that I want to make millions, but I want to impact millions of people's lives. But how could I, as a woman, do that? How can I make millions and how can I impact millions of lives when the rules of business are written by men? You've got to show up in this 9 to 5, conflicts with children, never any time off. What about pregnancy, menstruation, when we're feeling whatever? Must be, go-getters, aggressive. What if you're not? What if you're introvert? What if you're feminine? What if you're not action taking? What if you've got a more receptive energy? What if we're collaborative rather than competitive? There are so many differences in how women perceive reality, how we interact with things, how we interact with each other. We're not of this combative, competitive nature that is one of the core threads of the masculine energy. We are very much different. So, I wanted to see, the reason I want to make millions in the world and impact millions is because I want to make a business that is a reflection of the world that I want to see. So really, I suppose to understand how I got into it and how important this is for you is to really look at how I ended up doing this. And I always reluctant to talk about myself and this journey, and I often gloss over it. So I have been prompted by the soul, my own Deva, my own business, to talk about this a little bit more in depth today. So does your business have a soul is the real question. And I know that might be a bit of a foreign concept to some of you in this group who are new to this group, and some of you who've been involved and seen my business evolve over time. Yes, I am a firm believer that it does. So I think it's harder to appreciate that with a business than it is to appreciate some other things that we create. Let's talk about music. Let's talk about when somebody writes a phenomenal piece of music and it captures our heart and our soul and it transports us somewhere. Or a book, when we dive into a book and we become enmeshed in the characters and the story and the world that it creates. Or we're doing or it's a non-fiction book and it's research and we see the journey and the process and the heart and soul that's gone into, like a book of Brené Brown or a Terry Pratchett book about Discworld. They are totally different books, but each of those worlds has its own life. And you're creating a world with your business. You're creating this own energy ecology. A piece of music can transport us. So in those circumstances, I expect it's much easier to see that your business has a soul, that it is alive. Now, the reason I was always fascinated by this was when I was quite young, when I was 9, my family emigrated to Ireland. And we went from 1970s Britain to really remote backwater in Ireland. And we lived far away from school, far away from friends. So I and my brother spent a lot of time out as wild children, roaming the fields, paddling and swimming in lakes, paddling in streams, climbing huge trees, spending hours lying on the boughs, just looking up into the branches and just really becoming enmeshed in this landscape. And I began to see that I was part of the ecology. This energetic ecology. I'd always been aware of energy, even when I lived in England, but there was, even then, the more faster paced and slightly more technologically advanced as well the world was in those days, it was a little bit shut off from me. It was like I was always seeing it through a cloud. Then when I moved to Ireland, and it was like moving back almost 70 years, it wasn't just moving location, there was like a 70-year gap, where we were free to be kids, to go out all day on our bikes and explore the wild bogs and the plantation forests and watch the bog caterpillars, that were this long and as thick as my thumb and brightly coloured, and just be out for hours. And it was there that I really became aware of non-physical beings. And there are non-physical beings in everything. There are Deva in everything. And I very much became involved in Irish mythology and all the Irish legends, and particularly about the She, which were the fairy folk, and how they manufactured, or rather how they held the energetic patterning for everything. And of course, the word I use now is Deva, because that is a Sanskrit word for like the spirit of everything. So there is a Deva of every oak tree, and it holds the energetic pattern for every oak tree. There is a Deva of granite rock, which holds the energetic pattern for, granite rock. There is a Deva for everything. And what we know about this level of spirit, if you like, is that it is conscious. So I began to realise that I was embroiled in this whole energy ecology. I was one of these many moving parts that made up reality. But that also that man-made constructs, when we created something, had its own Deva. So I very much started to become aware of, for instance, I was a day pupil of a really old boarding school, and it started in 17 something, really old building with stone flag steps and little servant steps and hidden quarters and a sunken quadrangle and vaulted ceilings, very much like Hogwarts. And I very much became aware that the school that I was at had its own personality, its own Deva. And I started to explore other things and how that was constructed. I started to realise, I was talking to the spirits of mountains. I was talking to the spirits of rivers. I was talking to their soul, and they were talking back to me. And I could hear how the landscape was alive, and this constant threads of communication that went between them that sort of created reality. And how actually mankind's activity sometimes made a discordant note in that, when we pushed our will, we forced things, when we made things happen as we wanted them to happen, rather than listen to the Deva of the construct of the thing that we'd happening. So for instance, when originally I started out of the side hustle of being a dowser, so using pendulum dowsing and working on land healing. And I became very much involved with working with the consciousness of land so that it would support the endeavours of the people that were living there. So it understood what it was. Because if land has a pattern to be wild and wooded and untamed, and man comes along and chops the wood down and turns it into farmland, the Deva still holds the pattern that this is wild land. And it tries to make that pattern keep going, but we are trying to push against that pattern and make it farmland. And that's when things start to go wrong. That's when the farm doesn't do so well, animal health starts to slide down. There are just lots of compounding problems will start to crop up about irrigation, soil health, and it goes beyond the management of the farm. There's something underneath this. So I started going into this. But what that also led me into was recognising that the farm itself had its own Deva. It had its own consciousness. And that was a business. Even though it was connected to the land, it was a business. And I'd also come across this concept. I said that I realised my school had its own diva because it was such an old building and had this great sense of history around it. And, you know, I got quite attached to it. And then I realised, of course, that everything had its own diva. So I started to look around the world I was growing up in as how I'd always rebelled against, you know, you can't do that, you're a girl. You know, I would go and apply for any job. I did any job that came, even if I thought, some of them I applied for, really, I didn't realise there were jobs that really only boys or men applied for. I just looked at it and thought it's a job. So I was never one to step away and think, I can't do that, I'm a girl. I have worked in many places where I've been the only woman. And because I refused to be contained within what was expected of women. We must be palatable, we must be pleasant, we must be accommodating, we must be kind. It's nice to be all those things when it's in our interests. It's not nice to have those things foisted upon you to keep you down. So there's always been that rebellion side of me as well. And I realised that my own energy patterning, my own ecology, was not one of someone who could sit back and take that. And once I realised that this was my energy and I needed to learn and I needed to move into understanding how the world actually worked, because of my energy patterning, because of the support of the diva, that led me down the route of university at looking at sociology, women's studies, the sociology of work, industrial sociology, how all the systems and structures of politics, institutions and education are geared towards us being workers, and particularly what that means for women, what that means in our relationships, what that means in our health, what that means in our level of income, what that means in our support. So I didn't realise at the time, but when I was doing all those things, that was kind of like I was being guided by my own diva, who holds the patterning, the energy patterning of Faye. It wants to see the perfect unfolding of me. That's its purpose. Diva have purpose. They hold the energetic patterning or blueprint of whatever they're the diva of, and it's their purpose to see it unfold to its fullest. So throughout my life, I have worked with diva, and I didn't almost realise it. So throughout my university education, I was working with the diva of the institutions and the education and sociology and feminism. I was working with all those divas. And then when I went into my work life as a project manager, I started to realise that I was talking to the soul of the projects I was working on. Very quietly, I would get there in the morning and I would talk to it. I would have a conversation with it as if it was real. Well, I need this to happen today, and this is going to happen. So how is this going to unfold? And then I would let the ideas come so that these projects could be managed effectively. And then, you know, life got in the way. You know, you get married, you have children. That all ended in disaster, as you know, ended up in an abusive marriage, partly because I wouldn't be put in a little box as well of this is what the little woman is. She's going to stand behind the door with a teapot in her hand and a cup until the male comes in, because after all, I'm just a service human. That's all I'm there for. So that led me down then, you know, to really look into, I wanted to create my own business. And I've been working with diva all my life. And it really came to a head then that actually, if we work with the diva of our business, it does hold the blueprint for the perfect unfolding of our success. But it also means that we can express our values through our business. We can create a business that's a reflection of the world we want to see, one without all the extremes of wealth and extremes of poverty, one which doesn't treat the climate as if it's nothing, the earth as if it's just a resource to be plundered, one that respects differences, one that respects individuals and different nationhoods and ideas and the mass and women and men, and one that, you know, just honours all life. That's what my business was about. So I wanted to make sure that my business was something that I could do that in. It's still not quite there yet. I mean, it doesn't mean your business diva is going to, like I say, it's not going to send out the emails for you or write it. It's not going to get your messaging perfect. It's not going to, you know, do the email sequence for you. You have to do all that yourself to make the systems and structures of your business work. But underpinning that structure, that's like the house of your business. Underpinning that is this foundation. It's this world that your business exists in. And your business is a world. People enter your business as a world. It's a whole world of experience for them. So working with the diva allows you to create from your values. You acknowledge that your business is conscious And you're there to embrace what your business wants to emerge as. And this is why when we do this, there's less of a clash. I spoke about earlier, there's a clash in the diva of a landscape, wanting it to be what it has always been. And if we develop that land, whether it be farm, take it away from woodland to become a farm, or we turn it into housing, there is a clash between the blueprint and what we want it to be. And then inevitably that creates problems in people's health, in their happiness, in their wealth, and causes bigger long-term effects. There is the world stage that plays about on, that we have plundered the world, and now we have climate change, and we have warped the blueprint of money, and now we have extremes of wealth and extremes of poverty. The diva of money has its own relationship. It arose out of people bartering for goods. And, you have a goat. I want a goat, but I don't have the thing that you want in exchange. So I must develop this token of worth that I can give to you in exchange for the goat, so you can go out and find somebody that has the thing that you want, because I don't have it. So money is about this equitable exchange. But when we warp the idea of money, we start to warp the energetic blueprint of the diva. And that means that the diva its energetic field becomes corrupted, and it can't perform at its best. And this is almost, in many respects, this happens to the money of diva. This happens to the diva of money, rather. So our relationship with it is incredibly important. It's incredibly important that we see our relationship with it as one of equitable exchange, that this is what it's all about. And it's okay to have more of it than you need. But we also must be aware that, we want to spend it freely, attract it freely, spend it freely, pay all your bills as soon as they come in, work on this relationship with money because it has its own diva. So I then realised, I wanted to work with the diva of my business, and that's still emerging in many respects. There are things that I've done that I'm ready to let go of now. There are things unfolding in the world of my business that I am holding space now to see how they emerge. Some of that will be just within me. It will be increasing my capacity. And some of it will be, new offers and services. And I'm thinking about really how I deliver to women at the moment. When we're in these, sort of challenging times, what do I want to do? I have high ticket programs, but, I'm putting together things that are sort of can bolt together for business training to help you work with the soul of your business, to help you fulfill your soul's purpose through your business. It's part of developing our soul's purpose. Because for me, I did not want to be constrained within the world. For me to fill my own energy ecology, for me to fulfill the purpose that was in that, I wasn't going to do that bounded by somebody else's ideas of what it is to be a worker or what it is to be a woman. I did not fit into that mould, and nobody fits into somebody else's mould. So creating my own business allowed me the opportunity to be boundless, to be free. And when we find that in our business, we are starting to feel constrained and things don't feel right, we need to look at that. It might be that we just need to change our approach and shift things, not necessarily let go of some things, but it also might be that we have outgrown things, or we're doing things because we're folding onto somebody else's idea of what we should do. If you're struggling, for instance, to just constantly go after high tickets and it's not working, really need to tune in to the spirit of your business. So is that the goal of your business, or does it have different ideas? So the diva of your business, it holds this energetic blueprint, and acquainting ourselves with that is one of the most powerful things we can do, because it holds the energetic pattern for the perfect unfolding of its success. So when you realise that your business has this invisible being behind it, and it's conscious and it wants to communicate with you, and it wants you to follow forward, it wants you to hold space for it as to see it can emerge, and it wants you to increase your capacity so you can be there for it as it emerges. This is a very different way of doing business than the very male, masculine way of doing business. This is my idea. I create it. It's bounded in this way, and I will not step behind it, and nobody will infringe upon it. This is recognising that your business has its own spirit, and you may not yet see how it wants to emerge, how it wants to grow and develop, like your own child. You do not, when you start a business, you have an idea of what you want it to become. But when you have a child, You say, you know, hopefully you would say, I want that child to be whatever it wants to be. I want it to find its own talents. I want him or her to find her own gifts. And I, as a parent, need to increase my capacity to enable them to do that. So if they want to have ballet lessons, I've got to find the money, I've got to find the time to take them, I've got to get involved and enthusiastic and, you know, support them in this growing. And it's the same with your business. It wants to support you, and your role is to support it as well. And the diva of your business is a phenomenal thing to have a relationship with. So yes, I teach all the messaging and the strategy and how to launch, but underneath all that, we need to get to grips with what your business actually is, who it is, who the diva is, so that you're not building a house of cards. You're building something that's scalable. You're building something that you're going to have fun with and you're going to have joy with, and you're creating offers that are transformational for your clients, and they come from your soul. Because I got heartily sick of this patriarchal capitalist world from a very young age, from being free to romp around the fields and do what I wanted. And, you know, school in a way got in the way just that time, and I was a bit school absenteeism, shall we say. And then when school finished, you know, going into the world of work felt like, you know, I could hear the prison doors go clang behind me. And I didn't want that. And it's taken me a long while to get out of it. But I know so many women don't want that. This constant juggle of looking after the family or caring for parents, or, you know, and reaching a certain age, as I say, where we start to be this sort of invisible women because we're of a certain age. And yet we have a wealth of knowledge and experience that we can bring to the world. And it's never too late to start your business. It's never too late to start to work with its diva. There are so many constraints for women on how we should look and what it is to be rich. We should all be young, blonde and glamorous, and no, we don't. You know, these constraints aren't on men. So working with the diva of your business allows you to fully express yourself. It allows you to step into the person that you want to become and that your business needs you to become for its perfect unfolding. But it will help and support you in that growth, and in return it helps you support in your growth, and then you help it and it grows. And it's this lovely infinity sign of support and love, and the energy just feeds around in itself in this never-ending fulfillment. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today. So it wasn't so much a training, but if you want to connect the diva of your business, I do have a guide, which is a 4-step process to connect, which you can download off my website, and I'll put the link below. So this is a 4-step process to help you start to tune in and feel the presence of this invisible being, the diva of your business. And diva is something that I work with constantly. I work with the diva of my home. I work with divas in nature. I still work with, as I say, in Irish mythology, they're called the She, so the fairy folk who help all this unfolding. I work with nature spirits. I work with earth energy, because I am in this, and you are in this. We exist in many nested energy ecologies of us, our home, our community, our business. And there's this constant interplay of energies. And if we only focus on the one, we risk not really being part of the world. We risk missing out on so much goodness that could unfold if we try and make it fit in a little rigid idea of what we want it to become. So that's really just what I wanted to talk about today, was really going into, you know, what is the diva of your business and how can it help you unfold in success. So yeah, and our best way to connect it, as I say, just take some time to sit and relax, just doodle, draw, go for a walk, get your colouring pens out, immerse yourself in a full sensory experience that's less about the left brain thinking and just more about opening up your awareness to the fact that it exists. And you can download the 4-step freebie that will give you a plan, a little 4 steps, and that you can take every morning to connect to the soul of your business, so you can start to gather those impressions and visions and build that relationship with it. It is out there. It wants to support you, but at the moment it's a silent partner. So if you can build your relationship with it, then that will really help accelerate your growth. So that's been me today. So I'm Faye Semple. I am a spiritual business coach to female entrepreneurs. And if you'd like to learn about working with the soul of your business, you can download the freebie. And of course, you can always join me in the Soul Infused Business Launchpad, which is a mix of the energy alchemy, getting to know the soul of your business and how we construct this energetic world of our business before we start building the systems, the processes, the creating your offer, launching it, building your audience, all those practical steps we have to go through. Underneath all that, you really want to understand what is this energetic ecology that your business is and how it sits in the wider world. So I will see you all next week. If you're watching this on replay, let me know. And I will, of course, reply to your comments as normal. I'm going off now to melt because it's incredibly, incredibly hot. Take care.